Hey there, Squirrel Army. I'm taking this tweet as a challenge to build our own precon budget deck. So, I have wanted to do a Megatron deck ever since I did the Optimus Prime deck, but I haven't really been able to do it. So I thought this might be a good chance to try to do a Megatron deck. It might have a lot of similar cards in it to the Optimus Prime deck, but we are working on a budget now, so I have to get in under $50 for this deck, or at least as close to under $50 if I can. If I'm 1 cent over, I'm not going to worry about that because there's a lot of sites that are going to be, a dollar or two here or whatnot, things and shipping, etc. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. But I do think this could be very cool. So let's get on and cracking and build ourselves a budget precon deck with Megatron.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Alright, Squirrel Army. So here we are having a look at the finished list for this pre-con list that I've made here. Unfortunately, I did go over the budget that I was trying to keep for myself, but I have gotten very low, which is pretty good. And if we look here, we can see that without including the basic lands, which you do get free most of the time, it would be at 62 instead of 71. So that does cut a lot of the price down. So we're still over the 50, but we're not so bad. Yes, this isn't an optimal list as most precons wouldn't be, but still we do have some fairly decent cards and some fairly good cards in the pile, and I just felt like we couldn't really scrimp on a whole lot of other stuff. We were kind of running out of things that we could scrimp on, and I do feel like we did really scrimp on this deck. I'm not 1,000% sure on the strategy or the win conditions or whatnot with this deck either, so it is a little bit hit and miss there. But anyway, we'll get right into it. But as I say every time now, that if you don't want to see me just sitting here and waffling on and tell you how the cards work, because you already know how cards work and whatnot, you just want to get along and playing this list and seeing how it works and whatnot, or making your own modifications to it, check the comments. The deck list is down there in the comments. You can check it out, you can copy it, you can paste it. If you just want to see what this list is all about and you already know all about cards and kind of what they do, or you just want to jump into the strategy and see how you go, you can just do that. Otherwise, I will just quickly as possible go through some of the cards. I won't talk about the lands because there's literally nothing of much merit to talk about in the lands because, again, it's just mostly basics. So that is what it is. We've got a couple of board wipes in Tragic Arrogance and Mythos of Snap decks, so I'm not really talking about them much. And we've got a bunch of okay-ish removal. Some cards that could be better, but we've had to settle for some budget options here and there. So it is what it is. Actually, I don't know whether I need Wear Tear now, but whatever, it's sticking there. I can't be bothered changing it too much. So we've only got 2 enchantments. Loot Dispute, talk about that since it's in the front. Gives us the initiative, gives us a treasure. Whenever we attack a player who has the initiative, we get a treasure. So when we lose the initiative, which we'll inevitably do, because people will take it from us, we'll get treasures, and we'll just keep going down in the initiative when we hit people for the initiative, because they'll take that with it. So yeah, that'll be quite useful. Getting the initiative extra triggers as well, very useful. And yeah, just a very useful card. Ramp and extra utility is pretty good. Plus, getting those 5/5s isn't too bad when we complete the dungeon. So yeah, that can be fairly good there. Agent of the Throne. It does only work when our commander's on the field, but that's still not that bad of a effect for a 3 mana card, I don't think. So whenever our artifacts or creatures die, each of our opponents will lose 1 life. So that helps us out to, one, when our commander is on the field, also get mana from our commander, because our commander makes mana for each life our opponents have lost. So it does help us with our strategy if we're sacrificing stuff. There are a few ways to sacrifice things in this deck and whatnot, so including our commander, but there are a few other things, so we will get those triggers, and we will get Megatron if we do get him to do his damage to a creature, convert him, so he will be on the other side before we go to our second main, so it will see all of that damage, so pretty darn useful. So he's still our commander as well, so mostly I'm not going to talk about the mana rocks that are in this deck. There are a couple of okay ones. There are a couple of kind of ones, but I'm not really going to talk about them because they're just fairly good mana rocks that we could kind of afford within the budget. So Boots of Speed, like I said, we needed to be on a budget here, or as much as possible, so I couldn't fit Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots in here, so it's just here to replace Boots and Greaves. Same with the Slipper. The Wall Breaker, I thought this one was pretty darn decent because we do have a lot of attack, well, not a lot, but we have a fair few attack triggers, and we do have a lot of triggers to do with post-combat and things like that, so especially with our commander. And just taking extra combats is decent anyway with a deck like this. We need to find ways to win. Getting extra combats is a decent way to find ways to win, so that's pretty why it's there. The Hauler, it's a budget card that makes us treasures and is an artifact, so it's on theme with a lot of things. I don't like vehicles for the most part, but we have to take what we can get sometimes, so this is just here as a budget card for now. Pretty darn decent though, making those treasures still. Mimic Vat, I think Mimic Vat's an interesting one. I don't know exactly if there's any real things we can super duper do with it, but getting our creatures underneath the vat and making token copies of them doesn't seem too bad, and whatnot. So, and we can steal our opponent's creatures if they have anything that's a good utility creature that we can steal. So, and it can stop some graveyard loops of our opponents. So it's a good utility card. Mirror Works, we can essentially copy our artifacts, so there are a few legendary artifacts here in the deck, but still I think there's enough non-legendary artifacts to make up for it, and paying 2 mana to get a copy of something isn't too bad, so that then we can just do a whole lot of other stuff with it. We can sacrifice it to Mishra or whatever else or whatnot, make mana with it or do other things, so it won't be that bad to worry about. The Wellspring, it does 2 things for us. Well, it does the thing we want to do in 2 separate phases, essentially. Same with the statue here. It does it when it enters and it does it when it dies, so those are good abilities for the most part when we're on a budget, because we don't have much scope for other things, so we need as much utility on as cheaper things as we can get. So that's why they're there. They're here to help us get mana and do stuff that we need to do. The Traveler, it's pretty useful to return artifacts from our graveyard, and it's pretty useful to play artifacts from our hand. It does make us lose life equal to their cost, but I believe Mishra, oh no, I believe our commander actually counts all life lost. I don't know whether it actually does. Actually, wait a minute. That's not it. Where is he? No, just our opponents. Okay, well, whatever, it doesn't matter. But still, it's pretty darn useful to cheat things in from our hand and return things from our graveyard. So that's pretty darn useful, especially with the graveyard. It can be hard for us to recur things from our graveyard permanently. We can get them back as tokens or as copies or whatnot, that sort of thing, but it's harder to get them back more permanently, and it does get it back more permanently, so that's pretty good. The Mind Sensor just slows our opponents down from tutoring. They can only tutor the top 4 cards, so that's alright. Blitzwing, it's pretty good. I think the front side might be a bit better than the... I think the front side's probably a bit better because it doubles the amount of life that our opponents lose to a degree, and if no life was lost, we convert it, but whatever. We want that doubling up of extra life lost. Plus, it's kind of on theme for Transformers and what our deck's kind of doing with artifacts and stuff like that, so I think it's fine. The Guardian helps us protect our stuff with Ward, gives us a big body that, is pretty difficult to deal with sometimes and whatnot, so pretty useful. The Engineer, again, just paying 2 to get something that is buffed by how many artifacts we're playing or how many artifacts we have in our deck isn't too bad because we are playing mostly artifact creatures and whatnot, or have artifact creatures synergies and whatnot. So paying 2 to get a 10/10 or whatever it is not terrible. And at least it gives us another thing that we could sack or do something else with. Felden returns or makes a token copy of something in our graveyard, which can be useful. The Flame Weaver, I'm not sure whether the front side or the back side's more useful here. I'm not sure. It's pretty good to sacrifice artifacts for free, I would think. But yeah, it's tough to say, but it is useful to be able to sack artifacts for free and put counters on it, buffing it up. It doesn't have any natural evasion, at least it's on its front side. But I believe when you flip it, it retains all counters and that, so... at least I believe, I'm not sure, but anyway, I think that's how it works. So it will retain those counters and that'll be useful on the other side. So can be quite useful there. The Inspector's here to help us get some of our artifacts being cheaper. The Architect, he deals a lot of damage to our opponents very quickly and whatnot, and that's something that we need. We don't... I'm mostly a combat-focused person, but with a deck like this, and with a lot of decks, you do need a lot of range, so having this alternate kind of win condition there really helps out, or at least something that pulls you along that same path of you're going to kill your opponents. The Enforcer, again, returning artifacts is something or creatures and artifacts is something that we need to do, as most of our deck is creatures and artifacts, and we need to recur the things that we need so that we can, utilize them again and again and again. So yeah, it can be very useful to do that. Jansen does a few things. Making treasures isn't bad for us, especially when we make 2 for a creature. It'd be better if we made more equal to its cost or whatever, things like that, but still not that bad. Can make other tokens and whatnot, so the tokens he makes isn't that amazing, but that's okay. It kind of works within itself, but it's still kind of doing a lot of things that we kind of want, and it does have haste, so that's useful. The Familiar here to reduce our cost of artifacts again for the most part. Junk Diver returns stuff from our graveyard when it dies, so pretty useful. White Orchids here to Rampus. The Scholar, it's mostly here to protect our stuff from dying in combat, but giving us a incidental card draw isn't too bad either. The Replicator, it's not amazing, but paying 1 to get a copy of it whenever we cast another artifact or historic spell isn't too bad. We can do stuff with those token copies, so yeah, it's not too bad. Mishra can return artifacts from our graveyard, also gives our artifacts ward, and people have to sacrifice in a permanent to target them, so that's pretty backbreaking. The Convert, here for mana. The Retriever returns stuff. Thopter, mana. Osgear, he sacrifices stuff, plus he return stuff from our graveyard, so that's 2 things that we do want. It does exile things, so like a couple of the other things technically, in theory, exile things as well, like Mishra and whatnot, but still, at least we get 2 copies of it. It doesn't work very well with like legends, but again, we don't have that many legends. We have a few, but not too many. The Quicksmith loots us some cards, which is something that we need to do. We need card draw of some sort in this deck, and it's a pretty cheap effect. Rabbit Battery is here for more haste, and it's also an artifact creature, so that's pretty good. The Medic, I'm not sure whether it's better on its back or front side. I think it's actually better on its front side. Gaining life with its passive lifelink and returning stuff from the graveyard isn't terrible, but again, it's on theme for the whole Transformers and artifacts type thing that we're doing. So the Fire Weaver is here to do more damage to our opponents when we play artifacts, so it's pretty good. The Room Treasurer makes us treasures, and we can also make him do damage to any target, so that other ability can be fairly relevant, and can make us more mana later on with our commander and things like that. So it's almost a free ability to just shoot people and whatnot, or we can even just shoot people again and again, and especially when we can take extra combats and things like that, we can just make more and more mana and just shoot people more and more and more, and it can get really out of hand really quickly, so pretty good. The Rumor Gatherer here for card advantage, card draw. Scrap Trawler, when it dies or whenever another creature dies, we can return something from our graveyard to the battlefield, as long as it's lesser mana value, so that's alright. Again, we need Recursion. The Mirror, not bad. We're not playing much at flash speed, but sometimes you need haste on your creatures in a way, or need to dodge a board wipe or whatever, and it's just one of those things. It's fairly useful to help you kind of dodge those board wipes or give haste to your stuff. I think actually almost the Hired Muscle is better on its other side. I'm not too sure. No, it's actually better on its front side, but I don't like giving it away to our opponents that much, but then again, it can't really attack us, so it's not that bad. Plus, again, it's on the theme of artifacts and Transformers in the deck, so it's alright. The Iron Golem is a little bit high cost, but again, it's a very cheap card, so it's not terrible. We sacrifice an artifact, we add an amount of red mana equal to the sacrifice artifact's mana value, and it can only be spent to cast artifacts or activate abilities of artifacts, but that's still fine. Again, most of our deck is artifacts, so that will not be a big problem. Solemn's here to ramp and draw us cards. Since we're sort of sacrificing a lot of things and recurring a lot of things, I thought that this is okay. I wouldn't normally put it in a deck like this, but we kind of need to take what we can get and need to take any budget cards or fairly budget cards that we can. So, the Sophia here, giving those clues is one of those things that we need. We need card draw, and we need cheap card draw. Especially when I was building this deck, I was like going, oh, we're not going to get on budget, and we didn't, but still, like, we really need these cheap cards that give us a big advantage throughout the game. So I thought that it's fine. Not amazing, but still fine. I like Starscream on the other side, honestly, or on the vehicle side rather, because he gives us the Monarch. Again, that's a really powerful effect. And we can easily get the Monarch back with this side, even if we don't hit the player that has the Monarch. So that's really good. On the front side, it's not terrible, but I think the vehicle side is a lot better. That's just me. But anyway, we can do stuff with the front side too. But again, it's on theme with a lot of stuff. The Overseer buffs our stuff up with +1 counters, so that's useful. Teshar can return stuff from the graveyard, so that's pretty useful as well. And Warnog, here to give us more clues, give us more card draw. So again, we really need that sort of stuff to be able to play our game plan and draw into the things that we need. So again, having something like this that's a very cheap and efficient and cheap dollars-wise card is well worth it. So, but anyway, guys, that is pretty much it here for the list. As I said, you can check the deck list out in the comments below. And you can let me know what you think of this deck list. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below. I hope you have enjoyed, and I hope you will join me again in the next one.